Hello everyone, this is Ari Moshe Wolf of Heart and Soul Centered Astrology. What follows is a deeply rich conversation with my friend Martha Hines of Living the One Light. We talk about Uranus stationing direct today, its movement into Gemini, what this transition's about, the upcoming Uranus square to the lunar nodes, and how to understand all of this in context with Saturn, Neptune coming together in Aries. We also spoke about asteroid Lilith. Many beautiful topics and themes came forward. I feel like this was a really prayerful, insightful, and rich conversation. So I hope you enjoy. Check out the description to learn more about all of our offerings. Martha has a course starting very soon, and I have a class on the lunar nodes, unpacking the nuance of the meaning of the nodes through the 12 sign polarities coming up this very weekend. And my school living library is open for enrollment. The library gives you access to my entire school curriculum, everything I've ever taught, that's released on a monthly schedule. You also gain access to all upcoming classes. So for $45 a month, you receive access to the first month of the school library and free access to this weekend's Lunar Nodes class as well. So check it all below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this conversation.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So here we are. I am Martha Alter Hines, and I'm here with my good friend and past astrology teacher, Ari Moshe Wolf. And we are going to be having a conversation today, a multi-layered conversation, I think, about the kind of the opportunities of the overarching energies of 2026. And in particular, I think we both agree that the two biggest astrological moments of 2026, from my perspective, are the Saturn-Neptune conjunction happening on February 20th, 2026, and then the Uranus squaring the nodes in the middle of June. And what's really fascinating is that today we're recording this on February 2nd, 2026, and tomorrow, February 3rd, Uranus will be going direct. So right now Uranus is stationing to go direct, and it's heading toward that squaring of the nodes. And this is the last time for 80 whatever years that it will go direct in Taurus, in the sign of Taurus, because it's going to be re-entering Gemini in April, the end of April, and then then it's going to really be in Gemini for many years to come. So we're coming up to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, but actually also I'm really feeling the energy of that Uranian energy as well, and how the stationing direct is heading toward the squaring of the node. So it's almost like I feel like we have both of those big energetic transits happening right now at the same time, even though technically if you look at a calendar they're not, but but I feel like it's already here in the field. And there's just so many layers to all of that. So
Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the charts. We can get a visual. There is so much happening. So how about we just kind of go through the next several months. So let's go. This is right now. Here we go. February 2nd. So we know Saturn about to enter into Neptune. We'll do it week by week.
Yeah, February 13th, it'll enter Aries.
Right. So then, they just passed around the third week or so. And let's go back right now.
So just for everybody, so Neptune just entered Aries on January 26th, I think?
Something like that, yeah, like a week ago.
Yeah. And then Saturn is going to enter Aries on February 13th. Then they will exactly conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries on February 20th. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, okay, that's happening all this month. And then, but more imminently, like right now, Uranus is stationing direct. So basically, while we're making this video, Uranus is like at the very, very tail end of stopping. And I think like this was like the original inspiration to meet, because whenever Uranus stations, whether it's direct or retrograde, it's so profound. Like anytime any planet stations, there is such a strong pulse and focus on that planetary function. So something's beginning to move, and it's very heightened. I always say it's like that planet's conjunct itself. So we're going to be speaking about this Uranus. So keep your eye on Uranus right now. It's stationing. And it's like always useful to think, so where is it moving towards after the station? It's going straight into Gemini. And as Martha mentioned, once we enter into Gemini, really around April, it's going to be an orb before, but around then we have a very tight mutable square to the lunar nodes. And let's just watch that for a little bit. It's going to progress throughout May, June, July, August, I believe. And even after the nodes switch signs, we're still going to be in tight org, up until September or so.
And just to add in for everybody, because it's really important for those early degrees of mutable signs, there's going to be a lunar eclipse on August 27th, I want to say, that where the nodes of the moon will have switched into Leo and Aquarius, but the full moon will be at 4 degrees of Pisces. The moon will be at 4 degrees Pisces, the sun will be at 4 degrees Virgo,
Wow,
and
squaring Uranus.
exactly squaring Uranus.
Let's look at that. Whoa, let's come back then.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Very powerful.
This is like the intuitive, way to understand. Like, these aren't techniques as much as an intuitive recognition, right? Like, so we're talking about Uranus stationing right now, moving to square the nodes. But then we look at these eclipse points down the road, and we can very clearly see that these eclipses will be activating this Uranus, right? So it's very clear to see, like, there are certain nodal points throughout the year where these evolutionary themes become particularly heightened, even if it's like not the exact square or not stationing. So these are really good things to think about. Okay, so the other thing that I think is worth mentioning, so we have Saturn, Neptune. While it looks like Saturn's crossing Neptune, and it's like, moving far away, I'll say two things. Like, it's a new phase. So the more Saturn separates from Neptune in time, the more space we actually see progressively, the more clarity and direction begins to crystallize. Like, it's so incredibly subjective and unformed, undefined. So there's a lot of randomness and a lot of something is beginning to dissolve and emerge and a new cycle is beginning, but it's very hard to read that and to even feel a sense of, relative to Neptune, a sense of control. But as we see Saturn and Neptune separate throughout, basically the second half of this year to get some perspective, I think there are two things that we'll start seeing. One, sort of the disparate elements in society that are actually kind of on their way out will become stronger and more evident and more clear. It's like the Saturn aspect will be more defined. Like, oh, this is what the government's trying to do, right? These are the elements of social division and violence, Aries. Like, these elements will be more evident, but also our role, our part in it, the role that we're here to play also becomes a little more clear. So I just wanted to say that, like, after this Uranus square, we're also seeing the separation of Saturn to Neptune. I think there's just so much, there's so much that we don't know right now that we can just appreciate, that we're going to know later. So the other thing is, we were talking earlier about just the sextiles that we got going on here. So, Uranus and Neptune will be sextiling each other for a long time, because they're so slow. Then we have Pluto also sextiling Neptune and trining Uranus, right? And then for a short time, Jupiter will even be in the mix. There's a period of time where every single one of these planets are at 4 degrees. So let's take a look. This is in July. Pluto at 4.
July 20,
Neptune at 4.
Okay. Wow.
Uranus at 4. And Jupiter at 4.
Wow.
And then you can put the moon in there on one of these days in Libra or Sag, and you almost have a 6-pointed star between all of these planets. And I just want everyone to appreciate how rare this is. Like, for Uranus to sextile Neptune, well, that'll happen twice in an 84-year cycle, maybe less, maybe more because Neptune's moving too, but twice every century, more or less. For Uranus to trine Pluto, it's even less common. Right? And that'll happen twice in however 100-something years. So there's a very strong activation of all of these planets right now. So like, while Martha and I are describing the importance of this movement of Neptune and Aries and Uranus stationing now and moving to square the nodes, I mean, both agree, like, those two events are probably the strongest anchors of 2026. We also want to appreciate just the profound alignment of all of them coming together in these early degrees.
Yeah. I'm having like feelings in my body of what this is feeling like for me. I can definitely share that.
I would love to hear
Um,
it.
yeah, I can do that. And then I would love to hear what you're feeling.
Yeah, we
So
can jump into
again,
it.
I feel like what you're saying is that, there's a lot coming that we just can't know. And I want to name that very explicitly. I feel like that's always true, but it feels especially true right now. So to try to even project what is that going to be like, I feel so wrong to attempt. But what I can speak to is what I'm feeling this moment in my body as Uranus is stationed to go direct, and we're now in the beginning of February, which is such a big month. Um, what I'm personally feeling is a sense of that Uranus going direct in Taurus feels so right here for me. And it feels like an energy of um, something in my body almost stopping. And then that radical alignment of Uranus helping us to deeply align in our own self as the divine, like the intelligence of the divine, and almost like shaking off anything that's not needed. So I feel this energy of a lot of potentially for us, some of us, or all of us, the opportunity for a lot of simplification, like things just falling away that we thought we needed or wanted, and suddenly we go, oh, actually, I don't need that thing, whatever that thing is. Um, as we then are moving toward the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, so we also have Saturn in this balsamic conjunction with Neptune, right? And ending its time in Pisces. So again, I feel this energy of like letting go and things maybe leaving that do not serve whatever the intelligence of the divine knows way beyond our human mind can possibly know. It's like a lot of energies in my own life going, okay, just hang on a second. Like you have this picture of what you think you want to create or to becoming, but kind of what you were sharing before we started recording. Yeah, but there's a whole picture way beyond that. So just take a minute, let this falling away energy happen. A kind of simplifying Taurus. It feels very Taurus suddenly for me. Just like you don't need lots of these things you think you need. And actually, if you let go, suddenly this whole other picture is going to show itself that wouldn't have been able to show itself if you had been hanging on to
Yeah.
XYZ thing, right? Because then we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which to me is so much about the forms of the divine really arriving or like revealing themselves or having the opportunity to come into form. But it's hard for those things to align if we're hanging on. That's
Beautiful.
yeah.
I mean, what's landing for me right now is I think we forget often how utterly simple how simple it is. Like we amass so much in this lifetime, and we get stuck on like my worth, my deserving, my importance, and the things that we think we need and things that we think we need to have, to the point where like we become so identified with these values. We become so identified with the life that we think we need to have, but we forget it's like people in a completely different culture, maybe a totally colonized culture, right? It's like one that is less privileged than us here in the US or more, European. There's a context for a life that we take for granted, and we think we need certain things, but actually if we were just completely in a different environment, we would adopt. And new resources, new opportunities, new pathways would emerge. The less fixed we are, the more life opens up. And so with all of this happening in the early degrees of the zodiac, again, with that Saturn, Neptune anchoring, it really does speak to the strong quality of stripping away and simplification. Like, to be ready to walk this path, we really, really, really don't want to be taking a lot of the past with us. And so I think for a lot of us right now, this is what I would emphasize with Uranus stationing. It often can feel like something's being taken from us, or that our stability is being threatened or shaken in some way. Often the final movement of an outer planet through a sign are like the quintessence of that sign. It brings it all together in like the most essential way. And so the greater teaching of Uranus and Taurus is what we often think of as destabilization. It's just a freeing up from the bubble that we were in. We thought our life was defined by these parameters, and with all that's happening in the world, I think we are, and we kind of need to, we're being moved to think in a much more communal sense. It's easier and more accessible to be in an actual bubble when there's less imminence and importance to the life we're living. But in times of crisis, when things are a little closer to home, we can't live in the same kind of bubble. So I think this Uranus and Taurus in some way is inviting a movement to a more inclusive, holistic, expanded, more freed up way of being. And I'll just share a personal little story. Like right now I'm in the downtown co-working space. I'm renting the conference room, or booking the conference room to do this talk with you. But when we left our home and I no longer had a studio, it opened up. It's like in the absence of fixation on a particular, this is my place, right? Like our place, our stuff, our things are extensions of our body. They're extensions of our identity. Like if you really think about it, it's like because we don't feel safe without it. If we feel so dependent upon something and then we don't have it, or we're afraid of losing it, it really affects our sense of security in life. And that's how wrapped up the Taurian dimension of consciousness becomes with the things that we're familiar with. So letting it go, for me, letting go of the studio, because it's a smaller home now, opened up the door for, okay, what does it look like now for me to do my work? And it's both redefining my idea of what my work is, what are ways that I might want to change how I'm available, but also it's like, okay, I'm in this co-working space, and I'm around adults, and there's a coffee machine and tea all day, and there's an energetic and experience of, wow, I don't own any of this, but it's abundant, and we're sharing it. Like today, the coffee machine needed to be cleaned, and I'm like, well, I'll be the one to clean it, and it just felt beautiful knowing that I'm cleaning it, and a bunch of other people whom I don't know personally are probably going to get their caffeine fixation, which is another Taurus topic, our addictions. But that sense of to be a little more accountable to the fact that we're here together. That's a big part of where Uranus wants to lead us. Like in our lives right now, where can more flow in? And not just more money, we get so stuck, in these limits and these limited ideas. More friendship, more sharing. I mean, it could be something as silly as more lawnmowers, more resources for. I was taking a walk and I met all of the neighbors, and my dog is really getting along with another dog, and I said to them, hey, if you're ever gone, there's usually someone home, or I'll spend several hours at home usually every day during the day. If you don't want to leave your dog alone, you can drop her off here. It's not an issue. Just knock on the door. And I loved that I could say that. And actually, where we lived before, it was a little more isolated. So that kind of energy wasn't happening. So yeah, just more of where the resources and the value actually is. And I think, we'll talk about the war and the violence and sort of what I perceive. And I think we had this similar perception where, speaking for here in the U.S., where the current administration, in my reading of it, is very intentionally seeking to stoke division and fear. And one of the ways that we meet that is by becoming a little more inclusive of people that are different than ourselves, who might need a place to stay, who might need to be sheltered. I mean, these are like actual things that I think about. I think many of us are thinking about, like when it comes to it, you know, how can we be available for one another? And honestly, we crave so deeply right now, even though we may not know it, we crave so much to like get out of that nuclear separate me and mine, you and yours. It's not natural. The majority of human history has not lived in that mindset. It's a pretty recent thing, in particular in Western civilizations. It's been an experiment of like the illusion of self-sufficiency, right? Get your own stuff, make a lot of money, have it for yourself, and protect yourself from it being taken from you. It's an experiment. And we got a little confused and a little lost. So I think that's a big part of what's happening with this Uranus stationing right now in the larger context of these greater Saturn-Neptune themes.
Yeah, and I want to ask you a question in a second, but I'll just say in terms of the simplifying our concept of what abundance is, or reorienting, I guess is a better way to put it. I'm just thinking, for example, I've had so many experiences in the last weeks, months, um, of just over and over and over again recognizing that the experience of abundance is, I don't know, 80 or 90% perspective, right? It's
Oh, it so
like,
is.
it's like I can be standing outside. I mean, I happen to live in an amazingly beautiful place, but okay, putting that aside, it's true. I live in paradise. You live in pretty paradise place too. But anywhere we are, if we happen to be with, let's say we're in sunshine, or we happen to be under a tree, or we happen, whatever it is,
Mm.
there are moments when we could be walking. I could be on the same path walking next to a person who's walking in the same path. And I happen to live, right by the ocean. So I take these walks by this amazingly beautiful ocean, Pacific Ocean, and it's like gorgeous that I could be in a really bad mood, not noticing that I'm literally walking in paradise, versus I go, oh, wow. And I could have the most ecstatic overflow of abundance moving through my body. We don't have to be walking in a paradise like that to experience that, but it's a matter of choosing to fill up with that abundance or not. I think so much of the time. Um, right. But I would love to hear, if this feels right to you, what do you feel about this massive transit coming in June of Uranus squaring the nodes? So currently we have Uranus going direct, as we've talked a bit about that energy. But again, it's moving toward the squaring of the nodes. So, I mean, it's just a huge thing. What is it? 2 years ago, we had Pluto squaring the nodes. Now we're going to
That's
have
right. Yeah.
Uranus squaring the nodes. It's a
Yeah,
very different
yeah,
energy, right? I would love to hear,
yeah.
yeah, your thoughts
It's
or
funny, then
feelings.
Neptune in a few years as well.
Mm, oh.
So actually Chiron first, then
And
Neptune.
Chiron, yeah, I was
Yeah.
just about to say
That's
Chiron.
another, that's a really cool, I guess
Yeah,
like next year or something.
yeah, it's amazing. Yes.
So I mean, let's appreciate that it's stationing and it's completing Taurus. Maybe we can have a little jam on like what does it mean to transition from Taurus to Gemini, because it's kind of like they're different. They're very different energies. So Taurus is, again, resource, ground, stability, security, feelings as well, like how we live here physically. What's happening when we move from Taurus to Gemini is we're taking in sensual experience. Like, I have water in this. I can feel the weight of this water. It's a sensual experience. I'm drinking it. It nourishes my body. It's all very biological and physical. The warmth of this cup. What's happening in Gemini is we're classifying the sensual input that we get from life. So it's no longer just a sensual experience that then we're relating to on a more instinctual level. It becomes classified and named, or categorizing it. So I can sort of describe the feel of the temperature in this room, right? I can look around at the lighting, the contours. I can give name to what I'm taking in with my sense. So Gemini isn't just like, what we see or what we hear. It's literally the way the mind will classify everything that we take in through our senses. So what I'm touching, what I'm smelling, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, even what I'm inwardly sensing, like everything can be through the mind given a linear framework. And once we give something a linear framework, it allows it to become a data point. It exists as a fact. And then we're able to connect that data point to other data points and kind of progressively build a superstructure of knowledge about our reality. That's basically like an ever-approaching Gemini reality. Like it's ever-approaching a more holistic understanding of reality. That's how Gemini functions. Now, when you look at Uranus moving into Gemini, especially from the expanded context of ending Taurus, it really wants us to understand, and they'll say two things. One, the world that we paint in our minds about what is happening are largely defined by subconscious memories and impressions that we're projecting onto our sensual experience. So we're seeing something, we're hearing something, but then the mind calls it something. And I'll give an example, And this example will illustrate, and this is really important for understanding Uranus and Gemini. This will illustrate how we create data and facts that to us are true, but we miss how highly subjective it really is. So, I'm in this co-working space, someone looks at me weird, and I think they're judging me, right? And I was told, Ari, you gotta wear shoes here. That was when I first joined, I was walking around barefoot, and then I was politely told, you kind of got to wear shoes here. And I was like, okay, fine. It's okay. I'll get slippers. But for a moment there was like paranoia. Like, am I like the weird hippie guy? Like, is everyone going to see me as like this? Like, did someone complain? Did they feel uncomfortable that I'm walking around barefoot? So like someone looks at me and I'm like, oh, they're seeing the weird shoe guy. They're uncomfortable with me, right? And it's true that it's true that they're there. They have a body. They have eyes. They see something. But do I know they're looking at me? Do I know, right? And I have all of the evidence to indicate a particular experience. But if I walk over to them and I ask them, hey, were you looking at me? They'd be like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just caught in my head. I was just, stuck. I was thinking about whether I wanted like a latte or a cappuccino because that coffee machine's so complicated, and I was just like overwhelmed by choices and optionality, and it was more philosophical, and I was kind of lost in my head. I'm like, oh, I do that too. I probably stare at people too. Are you a Sag? Yes. Are you into astrology? I don't really believe in it. And all of a sudden, the entire framework of who this person is and what they're doing shifted. Now, do I have all of the data? I still don't. Uranus in Gemini is actually freedom from fixity. It's freedom from like, this is what it is. Because the second we say this is what it is, we've stopped the learning experience and we've stopped becoming an observer of the full field. So Uranian experience is like 360 degrees. It's by its nature, as a higher octave of Mercury, a Gemini planet, it's not linearly processing and taking in all the specific information, right? It's not like this is, when we have an experience, a Uranian experience, it's just sort of embedded in our field. We're not classifying every nuance of what happens around us, like the feel of the air behind my back. It's happening, but I'm not thinking of it. So that Uranian dimension of consciousness, it's all embedded in our subconscious memory, but we're not classifying it. So the moment we start classifying with Uranus and Gemini, we miss the much larger holistic reality that is so much more intelligently designed. And actually, from a karmic perspective, really, we take this reality, we make something that's vibrational and highly algorithmic from a sort of soul evolutionary perspective, meaning what's happening now has its roots in a much larger soul reality, and we make it very Newtonian, very much, it's this thing, right? This is this person, this is who they are, and this is what they did to me, but we don't really understand who I am, or why I'm here, or what the larger soul context of that experience was. So there are people from a Uranian perspective who have awakened to a higher level of consciousness, And they can observe the human drama and see how what's happening now has its roots in a much deeper sort of unfolding evolutionary archetypal process where the fruits of the past are coming up right now, right? Like the seeds of the past come to fruit right now. And it provides so much more nuance and complexity to what we otherwise often will see as just like matter of fact. Because we forget that as a soul having this human experience, this entire life is this template where we're manifesting in Saturn, time, and so we have this veil over our eyes, most of us, right, to some degrees, or we just see things happening in a linear timescale. But we forget that actually it's a program where everything that occurs is relevant to the ongoing awakening. It's all a stage. It's all designed. Okay, so that's really the first piece that I would say to really emphasize the significance of Uranus moving into Gemini right now. The other piece that I would just emphasize is, then what does it mean to liberate our minds from a fixed opinion, a fixed conclusion? It doesn't mean being like wide open and relativistic about everything, because that's a different archetype. Like anything could be true, that's actually a lack of agency, it's a lack of engagement. It's actually rather continuing to see clearly, cultivating clarity of sight, which means freedom from reaction and taking the time to be with the larger vibrational field of our lives. Larger context. So actually we can find ourselves beginning to form some level of insight or conclusion or opinion or perspective. It'll be limited, but we'll start to see, here's the pattern unfolding. When you bring it to square the nodes, I'll share this and I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on this. When we bring it to square the nodes, in particular the first phase of the Virgo-Pisces axis, it's the Virgo dimension is discrimination. What are we doing with our mind? What are we taking in? Just having more discernment around our thinking and our input. Virgo Pisces is just like wasting time on the phone, right? It's like bring some presence and agency to our minds, to our thinking. But the Pisces is seeing beyond the illusion. I mean, anything can be true. You can see a headline and it's total deception. It's an imaginary thing. The government will tell you something that happened didn't happen. You can be publicly gaslighted to believe something that just simply isn't true. So the Uranus dimension here relative to that Gemini is just seeing things as they are, which means there might be a disillusionment of the meaning and the belief that we've invested in certain things being true. And I think there's a sort of forgiveness and a freeing ourselves from the need to form a crystallized belief that confirms whatever we wanted to previously be true. It allows us to recognize a larger picture and have some sort of greater objective and neutrality and perspective in the larger process. This is like, I'll close with this idea of like, there's a dimension right now for all of us where the extent to which we have no clue WTF is going on, right? The extent to which we feel like bombarded with one crazy thing after another is in part a part of the strategy to feel overwhelmed, for our nervous systems to be overwhelmed, and to feel like we don't understand, it's confusing, there's nothing that we can do, and to get completely frustrated, and then to like talk about it and have debates and conversations and arguments and alienation, right? That's a part of the temptation, and we're going to see that obviously grow stronger and stronger and stronger. But the other possibility in these archetypes is not to become overwhelmed. It's to actually cultivate a deeper equanimity, a deeper repose, a greater capacity to see more clearly from a bird's eye view that is undisturbed, uninfluenced, not getting hooked by any deception. So we can begin to understand the archetypal patterns at play. And once we can see an archetypal pattern for the pattern that it is, we are no longer playing a part of it. We are no longer defined by it. And that's again where Uranus is not Saturn. We observe it. We don't become it. And so then we get to actually begin to choose a different vibration. This is where I think the exciting piece is. Or that I'm really excited to jam with you. So let me pause there and just hear how you want to interact with this.
Yes, there are two parts to this. First, I want to respond to what you said because this has actually been really helpful to me. So I just want to talk about that. But then bookmark, I want to bring in the asteroid Lilith because Lilith is going to be actually
The asteroid
conjunct
Lilith, the physical.
the
Cool,
asteroid
cool.
Lilith. Yes, the physical asteroid Lilith is going to be conjunct Saturn as it moves into Aries. So it'll be with Neptune and
For
Saturn
real.
yes, for real. Take a look. And then and Lilith, the asteroid, will then be conjunct Uranus when Uranus is squaring the nodes. So I would love to get your thoughts on this presence of Lilith for both of these major. This just jumped into my mind. And anyway, it's here for a reason, and because I know you work with Lilith, the asteroid. So I would love to come back to that in a second. Um, but
Should I share a visual while you're talking just to show that to everyone? Or should I wait?
yeah, just bring that up and then maybe take it down while I talk because
Yeah.
it'll be easier for me to concentrate.
Let me
But
just, so everyone can know, just right here, we have the asteroid Lilith right now at the end of Pisces. And so I'll just give a visual and then I'll put it down. So over the next couple weeks, yeah,
yeah,
Saturn and Lilith basically enter together. That's
yeah,
profound. You didn't
isn't
realize.
that amazing?
It
And
really
then take a
is.
look at whatever
Uh-huh.
it is, June 12th or something when Uranus is squaring the nodes. I'm almost sure that Lilith again is with Uranus then.
Okay, I'll come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know why that popped in, but it feels like it's here for a reason. So come back to that in a second. No, but in what you were just saying, that was so helpful to me because Uranus entering Gemini for me has been a little nebulous to feel into. Partly because I don't have any planets in Gemini. So Gemini in general for me gets a little confusing and a little like it's hard for me to land in my body with Gemini because I just don't relate to it, and I don't really resonate with certain versions of Gemini energy. So hearing you describe all of that, I was like, oh, got it. This is beautiful, actually, right? What so you were talking about how the kind of the higher octave opportunity of it of Uranus entering Gemini and squaring the nodes is that we can come to land more in our own equanimity, our own mm, the truth of the truth in a sense. What I'm also feeling, tell me if this feels accurate to you. It also feels like on the one hand, when I think about Uranus entering Gemini, I get a little nervous and a little worried because I think, we can easily see this already. But a potential of that energy could be just kind of chaos, like chaos of data, chaos of information. You have no clue whatsoever what is quote unquote real, what's AI, what's blah, blah, blah. And it could just go kind of haywire, right? So none of us want that. But I was really trying to sit with, okay, but what's the higher opportunity here? And so you spoke to a big portion of what I can definitely feel is true. And then another layer of that for me, what's landing in my body now is the sense of not only kind of knowing what is our truth, but also coming into the version of reality that is beyond linear, right? That is, how do I say this? For example, my guides, when they show me what is mine to do, they show me the grid of existence, the light grid of existence through all of time and all of space. So it becomes this like it's like reality pops up into this 3D vision that I'm shown. And I'm shown the whole time space continuum, which is very Uranian to me, right? With this light grid. And then I'm shown, like I'll be told, okay, hold this event on February 2nd, 2026. It's like, a few months ago, I was told to hold this event this morning that I held. And what they do is they show me through the light grid of existence, and the
Mm,
light itself kind of travels through the light grid of existence and goes plop. And
mm,
then it's like it lands on that whatever
mm,
day I'm supposed to do whatever thing.
mm.
So it feels like one part of what's starting to come alive for a lot of us is the reality that time, existence, etc., is not linear. It's not fixed. It is this, you want to say quantum field? I don't know how to put it into words, but I wonder if this Uranus moving into Gemini also is an energetic that helps us hold that version of reality. And you hearing what I'm saying? Does that feel that? Is that energy to you or something else?
So you're speaking to, I mean, obviously I'm hearing the Saturn Uranus dimension very strongly in this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Time, etc. Yeah.
the Gemini, so where I'm hearing this, like the Gemini would speak to our narrative, like
Ah,
how we think about and kind of mentally classify our time experience. So we think about like what we did yesterday, what's happening now. How was your day? This is what I'm going to tell you. But when we recall our day, we're never going to recall the day. We're going to recall very limited data points, right? So I think it's a sort of unfixed, more plastic nature to our intelligence that doesn't have an answer.
mm,
It doesn't put itself into a box to say, like, this is where I come from. Because our story of where we come from just reaffirms our sense of identity. And then we think we know where we're going. And also in that is like Uranus is like our memories of the past, like the subconscious memories, like the unclassified ones, but it's also our unclassified memories of the future,
mm-hmm,
right? It's
mm-hmm.
like, it's what's already, 'cause it's already built. It's already the design is there. That's what I'm hearing in that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm just thinking of, when I imagine being in that June-ish time when Uranus is in Gemini and squaring the nodes, um, I imagine an experience I had yesterday. I was on a social media platform and I was looking at some posts, and there were certain posts about a very disturbing thing going on in the world. Um, and it was kind of accusing XYZ person of XYZ things, blah 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 blah. And then I switched to and I believed what this person was saying. Okay, that was my instinct, was to believe it. Then I switched to another post. There was another person blaming another person for very similar crimes, and I went, I don't think so, right? But I sat there and I was like, okay, but logically, why do I believe this one and I don't believe that one? They could both be AI generated. I don't know, but I really had this instinct that the second one probably was, because I have a preconceived notion of the person being blamed in the second one, and so that to me can be this, like, Uranus moving to Gemini could just amplify that kind of a thing, right? Just like
Totally.
all this chaos all over the place, and so saying blah, 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 and you have no friggin' clue. But then on a much more healthy level, what I'm feeling in my body with this is the Uranus and Gemini being an opportunity for us to say, okay, there's all this chaos being thrown out there. Let me come back to me. Let me come back to my divine truth, my alignment with the divine, and kind of come out of the chaos, come out of the all of that chatter, 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 and feel my own divine light almost. You're right. So it's like then suddenly that chaos can just go boom, like silent. And I don't need to get caught up in it. What's there for you with
I
that?
think there's such a momentum to get swept into sort of the collective reactivity. And again, that's sort of the trance of Uranus when we're not in our own agency. So to kind of just be in the observer state, and we can vibrationally feel things. Maybe you're vibrationally feeling some element of truth. I think otherwise, 2026 is the year of massive cognitive dissonance, unlike anything we've ever seen before. Massive, you know? Just in terms of the ability to discern between real and unreal. And a part of what makes that discernment different are our affiliations and our sense of identity. So we affiliate with different groups of people who all believe certain things and will perceive life in certain ways, right? So how many of us, already experience, it's like, I can't quite identify with this group of people fully. Like, they have these political views that feel good, but then it's also, I don't really agree on that. And it's, there's a really funny Saturday Night Live skit where I just saw it this morning. It's from this past weekend. It's hilarious. where a mother was gathered with her like children, and you can tell it's like a conservative household, and the mother says, "Okay, kids, I want to tell you something. I feel, after paying attention for a while, that my feelings about Trump have changed. I think he might not be good for the country." And like everything she would say, the kids were like, "I've been saying that since 2016. You know, it's like all these like, but how vulnerable it was for her to share that.
Aww.
It was brilliant, actually, and I think it really encapsulated a sort of social energy, because it's like she was asking the kids not to judge her, and like the humor of it was like in the kids' reactions. So there was a point where she was like, "Guys, stop reacting," and she says, I don't think any of us could have seen this coming." And then the kids were like, you know, and again, it's like the many people saw this coming. You know, when Trump was elected in 2016, I had a dream where he was like pretending to be the rabbi or something of a synagogue, and like everyone was sort of like rallied around him and or something, you know, and I'm like, what is he doing? This is not real. He doesn't care. There's no spirituality in this. And he said something like, pray, you need to pray for the country or pray for the world. Like his soul was sort of saying, like, something's coming, you better pray. Because I think, you know, like all souls are fundamentally, whatever, this is what the message was. And I either did a reading or I saw a reading, I think. I forgot where it came. Maybe I did it or I saw it in a dream, but a hexagram. Hexagram 1, which is like this pure masculine, forceful energy. It's very yang, very powerful. Line 1, hidden dragon, do not act. Right? That line is always like there's some sort of unseen danger lurking. You know?
That's in the I Ching.
Yeah, that was the reading that came when he was elected. Anyway, the point that I want to make in this is we're gonna find ourselves affiliating with different groups of people, and then that makes it hard for us to think for ourselves. Be it liberal or conservative, right? It doesn't matter like what group you're a part of. It's like the calling of Uranus in Gemini right now is emphasizing mental freedom and to actually have a thought that you haven't thought before. Not to be in the trance of, I'm thinking according to this group. This is how I think as a person who is this. But to actually be free enough to think differently, but we are afraid of thinking differently because if I think differently, who will judge me? Who will, Uranus, exclude me? How will I become othered? You know, when you're ready, I want to talk about Lilith because that's like, should we jump into that?
Yeah, I'm ready. And then when we're done with Lilith, the very last thing I want to come to is something I'm thinking regarding what you were just saying about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And anyway, yes. So,
Sure.
yes.
Well,
Go for it, Lilith.
I'm so into Lilith, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm surprised I didn't see this. Lilith and the asteroids, everyone like, there's an asteroid called Lilith. I don't personally work with the other ones, like the black moon, whatever moon. No judgment. I've never gotten into it. Many things call me, many things don't. But Lilith, the asteroid, has called me deeply for many years. I think I have one video on it on my YouTube channel where I kind of teach it a little more. So Lilith has so much to do with where we can call it as an archetype, like the wild, rageful, untamed, right? Like sort of the undomesticated feminine principle, meaning that which is embodied and connected to nature, that is not domesticated, tamed, or controlled. That principle within us. And it also historically speaks to the taming and the controlling of that, and thus there's a lot of rage and distortion that often comes internally and externally with the Lilith archetype. Often Lilith speaks to where we're like cast out of the garden, right? Bad, sinful, inappropriate. And so there's a reclaiming of a sort of wild nature for all of us. Male, female, doesn't matter. Everyone with this Lilith archetype. So mad. Ending Pisces along with Saturn like within a day or two, entering into Aries and then joining with Neptune. It's like, whew. So what comes to me with this how have the structures and the systems of government, society, Saturn, the country, the rules, and the ways in which Saturn in Aries is a militarization and idealization, Neptune, of that militarization, where we've given a lot of belief and meaning into our nation, government, political leaders, where has our involvement, and thus our doing the right thing, meant a violation of a very intuitive, innate, instinctual principle of nature within us? And so there's a calling to reclaim and take responsibility for this wild and untamed quality of being. Where that is being repressed, I think in the collective does speak to the larger suppression of the feminine. And thus this unchecked energy that will that will become very distorted. But also it offers the opportunity for a more, I'm going to be true to myself. And I think in the context of Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, it really does bring up this larger reflection on ethics. What is it like to live according to a personally true ethic and not lose my agency to what the world says is right and wrong? That's what arises for me now.
Yeah. And then take a look at, did you look at the June 12th
Let's do
time
it.
frame?
Let's do it.
Because it's right there. I just double checked. Um,
Yeah, let's progress it. So again, Lilith is over here on the outer wheel.
mhm.
Let's just go week by week so we can see its movement. So yeah, here we
Right
are
there.
in
Right there
June.
with,
It's right there
yep.
in Uranus.
Right there with
Yeah,
Uranus
yeah,
when you're,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Isn't that amazing? I mean, really,
Yeah,
like
it's
what?
really powerful.
Yeah.
Lilith
Yeah.
is close to the sun right now, so it's actually moving pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, yeah. I mean, I can share what comes alive for me.
Yeah, please.
You want to take it down for a second? Um, and I would say that Ari is the one who very first pointed in my first reading with you years ago. You said to me, you said to me, I need to look up the Lilith asteroid in your chart. And then you saw, like, you had an instinct that it would be
Wow.
really, really strong in my chart. And
I
guess
remember
what? It
this.
sure
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Squares my nodes. And actually, the Black Moon Lilith also is conjunct my Jupiter. So it's the Lilith archetype is probably, to me, is probably the strongest archetype in my chart, period. And has been getting really aspected for many years. So I'm speaking about this from a personal perspective. I just want to give that caveat, but I think it's more universally true. I think part of what I've been witnessing in people in my community and what I've been experiencing in my own life, and this especially since I would say last eclipse season, September, it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, is this landing in my own body and then being asked by the spirit world to hold space for others also to really land in our own bodies fully in a way that is fully embodying the power of the divine that we each inherently, inevitably are. And so really to be undoing many like eons of lifetimes of whatever the patterning is that we have experienced in patriarchy. That's really what it comes down to for me. Uh, and and for me, in my memory of my own lifetimes, it has been a lot of being the feminine who has been ostracized or like pushed out of the Garden of Eden or out of the village or whatever, essentially because, it's very, very powerful feminine energy, but was misused for that power. So that's me personally. But then when I think about this on a more collective level, one of the things that I think is so beautiful and moving and possible right now, and I'm again witnessing this in so many people in my community, is the more and more and more we land completely in that power that we are, then all of a sudden all kinds of things that again we thought mattered to us, or we really care about the opinion of so and so or such and such, or society says I should blah blah blah, it's just it's like the healthy Lilith to me doesn't need to necessarily actually fight against any of it. It just lands and it just is. It's like the healthy Lilith energy in me is this energy of, yeah, here I am. Okay. And blah, 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 blah notion that I used to think mattered, it just doesn't. So I don't need to go and like yell at that person about it or society about it. It just suddenly the charge is gone, of whatever that power
That
dynamic
feels
is
like a
there.
very healed Lilith archetype because I think historically, and I've seen it, Lilith often will carry a deep sense of rage where there's been a sense of feeling suppressed and shunned. Right? There's to actually come back into that empowered quality of I know who I am is such a big piece of the healing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. So then to have her literally right there with us in both of these major transits is like, wow.
It's beautiful. And there's so much to
Mm.
unpack there. Yeah.
Mm. And maybe that
That,
brings,
that, that means Saturn and Lilith together will be separating from Neptune.
yes.
So the act again, that activation clearly kind of comes a little bit later this year. Yeah, that adds a lot more nuance to it.
Yeah. Amazing, right? Um, and then that speaks to, I think, the last component for me, that I would love to, if there's something else there for you, great. But this is the last thing coming up for me, is as we have Saturn and Lilith then coming to this conjunction, they're currently in this balsamic conjunction with Neptune, but they're coming to conjunct Neptune, and then they're going to be moving on at that 0 degrees of Aries. You and I have talked about off camera before, there's on the one level, like on the more global level, there's a potential in that for, I don't know, even just Neptune entering Aries, a glorification of violence or war, blah, 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 all that kind of thing. Okay, so we can see that. We can witness that. It's all, yes. And how do we feel called, or what's our anchor? Like, what can possibly maybe be our anchor in that, and how we feel called to show up in this bigger context of these energies? So, one thing that you said, uh, the other day when you and I were talking again, not on this video, you said something along the lines of, how does love want to move as me? Right? And I'm really feeling that in the Neptune Lilith Saturn Lilith Neptune conjunction, like at that 0 degrees of Aries is like, yeah, there's something you want to say around that? Because I feel that's
Sure.
just feeling very present.
Because the other possibility is absolute and total overwhelm and despair.
Mm. Yeah.
It's like, what do you do when a force as great as Neptune has engulfed Saturn? You have a whole country and a nation. So like, and I've shared this in a recent video on my channel, Neptune last entered Aries just the day before the Civil War, right? Like there's just a lot of history with this particular transit. And Saturn and Neptune have often been seen to be like sort of big structural changes in government, right? I think that the greater teaching is, like the mass Neptune, militarization with Saturn Neptune is like, Neptune is what homogenizes, so you want to become a part of something greater than yourself. So we have like lots of people kind of linking their identity to, I am now identified with this militant group or with my country, right? With this patriotism. And it can feel like there's just this sense of some sort of greater collective inspiration, but it becomes such a strong force. It becomes such a strong, seemingly powerful, grounded with roots. Like you got the tinks, you got something like that is around, in the field, however it goes. And to meet that, and of course, like the despair and the overall, like what can we do? And when there's war, like it's indiscriminate, it affects everyone. The other possibility is, okay, the truth and love is innately more powerful than any of this. However, we get confused when we associate with a condition. So I'm going to be the love that I am, and that's going to stop the violence. Like, we don't really understand what's going to happen and how it's all going to go. The role that we play will carry a profound acceleration and momentum. So like with that Neptune sextile to Uranus and Pluto there as well, it's like we might find collective and personal dynamics accelerating really quickly, and that our individual role has a much greater effect, and there becomes a sort of like zeitgeist, Uranus, Aquarius, like a collective movement that is greater than anything we've seen before. But we just have to allow ourselves to be inspired and play our role, but not attach outcome and conditions to it and how it's going to go, because the way it goes is beyond our understanding or our control. But staying free of fear, kind of freeing ourselves from the archetypal patterns and just choosing to not participate with that, the almost predictable fear response, seeking a higher vibration. And it's really seeking to know, what is your path for me? Where would you have me go? What is mine to do today? And again, all with coming full circle, with all of this stripping away right now, and with Uranus stationing, we're being simplified ideally, so we can have the freedom of mind to walk the path that we like. What prayer more can we have? Like, what more could we all want than to be uncluttered? So we're available and ready to do and be and move in the direction that we're guided and inspired to be. And that activism, spiritual activism of Saturn, Neptune, might not look a particular way. For some, it might mean fighting. For some, it might mean like there are all kinds of expressions, and there's no judgment in the what. But for some, it might be your art. It might be your business. It might be the way that you're called to act and do something locally in your community. And with that Uranian element and the Aquarian element, just be open to how it's like, I didn't quite expect this. Radical times bring forward qualities of being that in the mundanity and normalcy of our life, we didn't know existed. So we're overly domesticated in our little secluded boxes, but there might be a creative element that comes forward that is far more intelligent and original and available than we ever could have imagined, simply because the times are bringing it forward. So, yeah, I can't emphasize enough that stream of sextiles, in particular later in the year when Jupiter joins and Jupiter opposes Pluto. When was that? Like August? No, that was July. That was July.
July.
And it's revolutionary. It is just absolutely revolutionary, and there's no one that's exempt from it.
Yeah, June, July, and August are just wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, February is wow. March is pretty wow, but February and then June, July, August are wow.
And Martha, honestly, it just kicks off the rest of this decade.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't slow down. It doesn't slow down. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want, can I say, I want to say one more
Please.
thing about what you're just saying. And then maybe we bring it to a close. But yeah, I've really been sitting with this, again, you and I have talked about this offline and more privately, but really sitting with what is mine to do, right, in this moment in the world, and I hold space in a particular way, um and so I have been witnessing a lot of my friends, friends who are not in this kind of spiritual world, but more in my like college day friends or that kind of grad school, that kind of thing. And I'm witnessing them experiencing a lot of despair, a lot of almost debilitating grief and all of that, right? And I really, really get it. I really feel for them. I have very similar perspectives that they do on a lot of things. And yet I don't feel that mine to do is what they're doing, right? Which is really interesting to me because in earlier parts of my life, like in my 20s and even my 30s, more of my social work days, I would have made, especially my college days and my grad school days, I would have been out there doing what they're doing more on a political level. And it's not, and I don't have a problem with them doing it at all. Like you said, no judgment, that we are all called in our own ways. But I've been really sitting with personally, what is it that I am called to be doing? And the analogy that came to me, I'm still sitting with it, so I don't have the answer, but the analogy that came to me last week was kind of like, let's say a person breaks their leg, and so my friends are amazing, beautiful, wonderful people, and they're going to rush in and they're going to help the person who broke their leg, and they're going to traction it, they're going to put it on a splint, and they're going to call the ambulance, and they're going to get the person into surgery, whatever, all the things that need to happen, right? And that's beautiful and wonderful, and I so love them and appreciate them for that. And what my soul is asking me to do, because I would have previously been, I mean, I literally have EMT training. I like literally, worked in an emergency room. Like I would have been the person doing all of those kinds of things. And not that I wouldn't now, I would do all those things now too. But the difference is now, literally and metaphorically, I would probably enter that scene. I would address the immediate needs, but I also would be tapping in and holding space for the healing of existence to be
Mm.
fully present
Mm.
in the whole thing. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's like,
Mhm.
I think the missing, like the despair tends to happen when that perspective of the power of the divine, um,
So beautiful.
yeah, it's like there's a way, and I'm saying not, it's like I'm almost hesitating to say any of these things 'cause I don't feel right saying there's any one way that's correct to do this at all. I don't have the answer. I really do not. Um, but there's something about the opportunity that we have to be a presence, holding healing space in addition to acting on the immediate 3D needs. Does that make
Totally.
sense?
I mean, it just really ties so much together. What I'm hearing in this is not to allow ourselves to become overly stuck on the apparent conditions.
Mm.
So we're showing up for our life, doing what we do, playing the roles that we play, responding and how we're responding, but we're not attaching to it. We're letting, and this is like such a beautiful practice, like we're letting everything be guided by divine purpose.
Ah.
You know, we don't know the reason why we're here. We don't know the reason why we're interacting with this person. We don't know the reason why we're helping this person right now. All we know is that we're here, we're doing what we do, but we don't give the meaning that it has. We don't understand the larger truth and the larger interconnection, you know?
Yeah.
So I just love that, like that practice of not letting our life, even the seeming mundanity of day to day, not letting it become too crystallized in just the normalcy of I'm just doing a physical thing. Because there's deeper spiritual animation that's moving the entire process, and I think it's just true, and it becomes more real and accessible when we acknowledge that it's true. Like the divine's in control no matter what. I had a dream once. We give thanks to Great Spirit that carries us through, and
Mm.
we give thanks to Great Spirit to carry us through.
Hmm.
Like God's in control. Like love is taking it all and reinterpreting everything. And there's something about the acknowledgement of it, the giving over to that fact, and and just the gratitude of it. Like, thank you for right now. Thank you for here. Thank you for this day. Thank you for everything. That makes it true. That makes it more real. That actually, it's like that's the dream message was like the most beautiful paradox. And there's a song that I wrote with it. We give thanks for the truth of it, and we give thanks because the giving of the thanks makes it true for us too.
Hmm. Yeah. And the element in there I just want to add in, I want to explicitly name that I know is yeah, true for you as well as myself is it's like when we come in with that higher perspective, sometimes what I get a little nervous about is that there can then be this sense of like, oh, it's fine that they broke their leg. Don't worry about it. Like it's all
Mm-hmm.
perfect because it's all in divine choreography or something. It's like on the one hand, yes, and for me, this is again speaking for myself, it doesn't feel right to then discount the reality that they broke their leg and the tragedy of XYZ breaking the leg. Like for example, again, I saw this video the other day and it completely broke my heart, right? This woman in complete total terror, this certain thing happening that's been happening. And I can't get this video out of my mind. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst of humanity happening on this video. Um, so I would never feel comfortable saying, "Oh, this thing happened to her is somehow fine." It's not, right? It's really not. And and at the same time, um, something about holding it with the power and the intelligence and the compassion and the love of the divine is a crucial component of how I at least feel called to show up to it, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, what a great practice to not let ourselves become stressed and overwhelmed. Because
Mm,
we can feel the humanity and the heartbreak. I mean, just as a parent, like life is hard sometimes, right? Like there's a lot to feel. But there's so much power and almost like a demonstration of our agency and our sovereignty over our thoughts, to still choose not to allow ourselves to get overworked, which is different than having feelings and feeling our feelings, but not becoming anxious and overworked and overwhelmed by the things that are happening, because we can hold both at the same time. I think, like, we embrace our humanity and at the same time always keep this space inside for, like, does love get stressed out? Does love have fear? Can the two ever coexist? No. So it's still being open to be a disciple of love.
yeah.
What's my role in this? How do you see this? How do you want me to see this? Right? So we don't get too stuck. Because then it becomes like we're having a dream and we get lost in the dream, trying to save the world, trying to be a good person, do the right thing, and we get overwhelmed and we forget that we can also wake up. There's also that, right? But we don't want to, discount that there's something compassionate and real about our investment in this dream, and that it's here, and we don't want to bypass that part. So it's very much a beautiful paradox, I think, is a part of this journey that we're on. But to stay anchored in the eternal feels so important, So for each one of us, like whatever that looks like, if it's just like our prayer, our relationship with Jesus, our relationship with whatever expression of God or the divine, our spiritual guides, our guidance, like our gurus, like the ways in which the divine is anchored in life and kind of eternally witnessing, eternally present, never, always unflinching in its clarity.
Yeah. I'm getting this image of
I gotta go in 2 minutes, just so you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I
No,
gotta
just
go.
I'll finish with this. Yeah. So I'm getting this image of Saturn finishing its time in Pisces, heading toward Neptune, right? And if we think about Saturn in Aries, like without the Neptune, I don't know if this is super accurate, but I'm getting this image of almost like Superman, dun da da, here to save the day. Like, but the thing is, Saturn entering Aries has to pass through Neptune
That's past
first.
your Neptune, yeah.
Right? So it's like, yeah, I'm here to save the day, but I actually don't have a plan of God has a plan. Like the
Yes.
divine, I have to go through into and pass through the plan of the divine. Again, what you said the other day.
So beautifully
How
said.
does love want to move as me? Yeah.
That's beautiful, Martha. Wow.
Awesome.
Martha, this has been so rich. Thank you for taking this time to share this conversation with me. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
this.
And yeah,
Um,
thank you to everybody watching. And please comment and tell us how this is for you and what comes alive for you and all the things.
and since I'll post
Wonderful.
this on my channel, are there any announcements that you would like my audience to know about as
Oh,
well?
yes. Yes, I have my astrology course actually starting on March 4th.
Mm.
So, and you have stuff starting too, but yeah, for people that I would say my astrology course is really, really perfect for people who want to be in personal relationship with the planets and the signs, etc. So the distinction for mine is that I channel for us to be with each of the planets throughout the year
Mm.
and to really have your own relationship with them. Yeah, so if you're kind of interested in more that version of it's like an Ari Moshe Wolf, Heather Ensworth mixed with Martha kind of course.
It's a
Yeah,
Martha thing.
it's a Martha thing.
Beautiful. Yeah, highly recommend it for those that are really drawn toward a more embodied,
Hmm.
contemplative approach.
Jupiter and Taurus over here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a class coming up this coming weekend, the 7th, on the lunar nodes. I'm going to be teaching a workshop on the lunar nodes through the 12 signs, exploring the polarities and really unpacking the nuance of how multi-dimensional, multifaceted the nodes are. And this is free for those that are part of my school library. So I have a school library. It's a subscription where you receive, through monthly payments, access to my entire training program, a new segment released every month. So everything, my entire training program, every class series I've ever taught, every individual class. So my entire school curriculum is included in this school library for $45 a month. And then you gain free access to all new classes. So you can subscribe for this month, get your classes, and also attend the one this weekend for no additional cost. So I'll put all of this in the description below. And thank you everyone so much for joining
Yeah.
us today.
And I'll just say your
Yes.
subscription for people who have been in my courses and are into my work, your subscription would be the perfect kind of pairing with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my work is based in your way and then does the Martha flavor too. But yeah, if you want to get more in depth, yeah, awesome.
Great.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.